All right, we'll be starting right away. And we are continuing from where we stopped last week. We're starting right away. Good evening, everyone. We'll continue on our discussion on a fresh look at prayers. And this evening, we are going to be looking at understanding when to pray. Understanding when to pray. By this, I mean, when should we really go to God in prayer on an issue? Because there are situations where the issue really can be fixed without necessarily praying about it, because God has already given us a brain to use. And even when we pray, we will still have to receive instruction on what to do. So let me start by stating clearly that I believe in prayers, because there are statements that will make those that are listening wrongly and also conclude that, oh, this guy does not believe in prayer. So that's why I always put a disclaimer at the beginning, so that anybody listening in future will have heard about the disclaimer before hearing other things I talk about. So I believe in prayers. I'm not against prayer, but I'm only trying to enlighten other believers on the unscriptural way that we have used prayer today. Prayer today is seen as a master key. That means it's the only key that a believer needs to get things done on the earth. But that's not true. Prayer is like a tool that is to be used to get into the presence of God, to hear him, to know what he will have us do for him in his kingdom on the earth. Just like any other key. Just like any other key. So it's not a master key, because Jesus did not say that, but it's one of the keys. When you call it a master key, you're basically saying it's the only thing that can open any door. But if you have issue with your car, you can't pray for it to be fixed. If you have issue with your phone, you can't pray for it to be fixed. You have to get someone to do it. You have to get someone to do it. So it's not a master key. The goal of this series is to help believers to love prayer so much that it is not just done to get things done, but rather to use it to fulfill their calling on the earth. Jesus gave us an idea of the way we should pray. He said, after this manner pray, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Then he said, thy kingdom come. Thy kingdom come. First of all, it demonstrates relationship, which is the core of our Christian experience. Relationship with God. Relationship with God is the core of our Christian experience. Our Father. So we need to live with the consciousness of the fact that we have a Father who loves us. Our Father who art in heaven. Then hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Basically talking about how vital and important kingdom is to him. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on the earth as it is in heaven. Now, these first few verses of that particular prayer tells us what is uppermost in the heart of Christ and what should be uppermost on our mind when it comes to the subject of prayer. What should be uppermost on our mind when it comes to the subject of prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on the earth. So we are made for the kingdom. We are made for the kingdom. We are made for the kingdom. And this should be uppermost on our hearts. You know, believers today have gotten used to groping in the dark of unanswered prayer. So people are used to unanswered prayer. What I mean by that is, you know, now, people pray and they don't expect answer. Not that they don't expect answer overtly. They don't expect answer covertly. As in somewhere deep down in their mind, they are not expecting answer to that prayer. But praying is just an exercise that gives them a sense of duty. Not because they are expecting anything. Because they don't see prayer as conversation in which you talk to God and he talks to you and you listen to him to give you instruction on what to do about a particular matter. So people are used to unanswered prayer today. In fact, the Bible says that they ask and receive not because they ask amiss that they may consume it upon their lust. That may consume it upon their lust. They ask and receive not because they are amiss that they may consume it upon their lust. And that's one of the reasons. Many people are not praying for sake of kingdom. When you're praying for something, to what end is that thing? When you get that thing, why do you need it? Why is it important? To what end? Is it because of him or just because of you? Or just because of you? So today we are looking at understanding when to pray. The content of prayer is so universal, or the concept rather of prayer is so universal that there is no one that has not heard about it before. However, it's also a concept that is grossly misunderstood. It's also a concept that is grossly misunderstood. That is also grossly abused. Prayer is an affirmation that there is a God in heaven that can come to your aid or to the aid of mankind when they're in trouble. And that's true. The fact that prayer exists is a sign that God exists also as the one who asks what it takes to answer the prayer. So by praying, you can't be an atheist and be praying. You can't be an atheist and be praying. Praying is a sign that you believe there is a God. The fact that prayer exists is a sign that God exists, and also as the one that have what it takes to answer the prayer. If you really love God, if you really know God, and you really understand him, you will not be spending your time asking him for things that are egocentric. If you love God, if you know him, if you understand him, you will not spend time asking for things for self. You will not spend time asking for things that are egocentric, just focus on self. You will like to be preoccupied with what he wants you to do more in prayer, which is increasing relationship with him in order to be empowered to manifest his kingdom. You'll be preoccupied with what he wants. What does he want? Increasing relationship with him in order to be empowered to manifest his kingdom. Increasing relationship with him in order to be empowered to manifest his kingdom. Increasing relationship with him. Maintaining constant relationship with him is praying without ceasing that Christ and Paul talk about. Remember, I've talked about this before, that Jesus and Christ, they do other things. They even sleep. They eat. They do other things. But they both said, pray without ceasing. Men ought always to pray. But they don't pray always. Because prayer is more than scabashing, shaking your head, nodding it, shouting. It's much, much more than that. That constant fellowship, consciousness with him is prayer. To pray without ceasing is to pray always, or pray always is to be in constant fellowship or relationship with him, because prayer is not only in speaking, but in constant touch with the Father. Not only in speaking, but in constant touch with the Father. That is living with consciousness of the Father in you and you in him. And that means you keep conversing with him in your heart. Conversing with him in your heart. All prayers involve some form of communication. It can be just tuning in your spirit to him and acknowledging his presence. Tuning to him and acknowledging his presence. Tuning to him and acknowledging his presence. Tuning to him and acknowledging his presence. Unfortunately, believers have always elevated prayer to a level that we now see prayer as the whole essence of our Christian faith. Whereas the whole essence of our Christian faith is relationship. Our Father who art in heaven. He said, you will become my sons and daughter, says the Lord. Our Father who art in heaven. Relationship, consciousness of the Father. I have a Father who knows my need. If indeed is your Father, you will know he knows your need more than you imagine. And when you are praying to him, you don't need to shout. You can shout at the devil to cast out the devil. But to ask your Father for something, he can hear you. He sees your heart. You can't shout at him. He's the monarch of the universe. You know, let me tell you a story. I think I told this story last time. I don't know if I told it last time. You know, my mentor was telling this story some time ago. He said this story was told by a man who traveled abroad. The man was a director in one of the multinationals in Nigeria. So they went to, I think, Scotland for a retreat, a business retreat. So they finished on a Saturday night. Sunday morning, there was a church meeting on the basement of that hotel where they did the program. There was a church meeting there. So this man decided to join them. I mean, it's a Sunday now, and it's not in Nigeria. So he decided to join this Christian gathering on the basement. Now, the man was praying and praying and praying and praying and praying when they were starting the program. And as he was praying, you know what happened? The usher came to him and touched him. He said, please, there is coffee on the side. The guy became very furious and angry and said, what do you mean? Coffee? You know, the guy was, you think the guy was trying to be racist or embarrassing? How can I be praying? You're telling me about coffee? So the usher said, sorry. So the usher left. But when he was to continue that prayer, he could not continue. As he wants to pray, something will tell him, why you and why coffee? Why you and why coffee? Throughout the program, throughout the message and everything to the church, the third and why you and why coffee? Immediately the church, the service finished. He went to meet the usher and apologized about the way he reacted. Like, sorry about the way he reacted. The usher said, sorry, I don't know him. And I said, okay, I want to ask you a question. Why me and why coffee? Why is it that you came to? And why are you saying I should come and drink coffee? The usher said, I'm sorry, oh, that when I saw the way you were praying, I thought you were battling with cold. So I came to inform you that there is coffee on the side. He said, I thought you were battling with cold. So I came to tell you that there is coffee on the side. So that if you are feeling cold, you can take a coffee while the message is going on. You know why the man think that this is a born-again Christian, tongue-speaking, talking to another Christian from Nigeria? Because this guy, the church he attend in Nigeria, when you are fighting, when you are praying, you must battle the devil. You must shake your hand, shake your head, put your box the devil. You know that kind of prayer with your head, with your hand, with your hair, everything. Now, if another Christian reading the same Bible see your prayer as if you are battling with cold, something is wrong with your understanding of prayer. That's a challenge of Africa. That's a challenge of Africa. Prayer has been exalted to a position of idolatry, such that it is prayer that gives us all that we need other than God. So people worship prayer. People worship prayer. They pride themselves in the hour they spend praying. They pride themselves in it because it gives them a sense of superiority and fulfillment as a Christian. Whereas prayer is just a tool. Just as a cutlery can help you to eat, prayer is a tool that gives you access to God. It's a tool for connecting with God. It's a tool for hearing from Him. It's a tool for communicating with Him. So God is the one to be elevated and not the prayer itself. As a matter of fact, some people describe prayer as oxygen or breath of believer because God is our breath. God is our life, not prayer. God is our life, not prayer. Some believers call prayer as the master key. Like I said earlier, it's not the master key because it can't open all doors. No, it doesn't open all doors. If your phone is having issue, you don't pray to fix it. You get someone to fix it. It doesn't require prayer. Just get someone to fix it and stop disturbing God to come and fix your phone. It's not the master key to all problems. Because some problems, God has given us brain to fix it on the earth. So it's not the master key, but it's one of the keys. It's one of the keys. Just like studying the scriptures, learning the principle, just like worshiping God. They are all keys. They are all keys. So don't elevate prayer much more than God. Some believers call prayer the master key. Prayer is just one of the keys. It's a tool, not the master tool or master key that gives prayer to answer to all problems. Please note that relationship with God is superior to prayer because God wants us to be in fellowship with Him. So that relationship with Him is much more important than prayers. In fact, that relationship with Him is a form of prayer, continuous consciousness of His presence. Also note that prayer is a means to an end, not the end in itself. It is a means of connecting with the Father. It is important for believers that there is a time to pray. It's important for believers to know that there is a time to pray, and there is a time not to pray, and there is a time to stop praying. There is a time to pray, there is a time not to pray, and there is a time to stop praying. This is tough for some people to handle, particularly the religious minds who have been told that they have to always pray, even though they do not always pray. If you are to take the word pray without ceasing literally, that means you're on a suicide mission, because that means you will not even eat again or do any other thing. You will only pray. Come to think of it, like I said earlier, Jesus and Paul that said it, did not pray at all time, but they actually pray at all time because they are always in connection with it. But literally, they don't. This means that they definitely have something else in mind when they made that statement. They definitely have something else in mind when they were inspired to make that statement. And it's important we understand that. This means that prayer is not just opening your mouth to speak, but rather maintaining relationship and communication with him. Remember, the Bible says that he who does not work, let him not eat. So if you are to pray without ceasing, the way you interpret it, how will you work? How will you work? How will you work? So it means an ongoing communication, relationship, and fellowshipping with him. An ongoing communication, relationship, and fellowshipping with him. Both Paul and Jesus work physically, and they have a secular job. They were always in fellowship with the Father. So as a believer, you need to know that there is a time to pray. There is a time not to pray actively. And there is a time to stop praying. You know, sometimes you are praying on an issue. And all the prayer you've prayed, it seems as if answer is not coming. You need to ask yourself, maybe there is something you need to be doing at that time in preparation for the answer that will come in future. Or maybe God allowed that thing to continue because he has a better plan. For example, Jesus prayed for the cup to pass, but eventually he stopped praying about it. He now said, let your will be done. We need the wisdom to know when to say, let your will be done. We need the wisdom to know when to say, let your will be done. Because Jesus realized, this is the reason why I'm here. It's a tough one. It's a challenging one. But this is the reason why I'm here. This is my calling, to come and die for the sin of the world. So it cannot pass. Let your will be done. You need to know when to stop praying on an issue. Because what God could have prevented in his power, he allowed in his wisdom. Because he will make that thing to work together for your good. Because he will make that thing to work together for your good. He will make that thing to work together for your good. So you need to know when to pray and when to stop praying and when not to pray at all. There are things that you need to do that you don't need to pray about at all. And you need to know. You need to do an exam. You can't be praying for the exam. The only prayer you can pray for that exam is to wisdom to understand and favor before the lecturer, but you must read. So, but please note, those that will not pray for that exam will pass that exam. That will not pray at all will pass that exam. They will not pray at all, they will pass that exam. Because the law of personal responsibility says, God will not do for you what he has given you the capacity and the intellect to do for yourself. God will not do for you what he has given you the capacity and the intellect to do for yourself. So you need to know when not to pray. If what you are praying for is what other people are doing without praying, maybe you should not pray about it. Other people like you are able to do it. Maybe there is something you need to learn. Maybe there is something you need to learn. In fact, if there is something you are praying about, you pray about it several times and nothing is changing. I mean, nothing is changing. Maybe you are praying amiss. Maybe you are praying amiss. Maybe you are not praying according to his will. You are praying for yourself, just to consume it upon your lust. You don't have his kingdom in mind. To what end is that thing you ask for? To what end is it? To what end is it? Do you know that Moses, he was not going to see the promised land because he was told to stick to the rock, but he struck the rock. And God said, because he didn't honor him before Israelite, he would not. He prayed. Do you know at some point God told him not to pray about it? He told him, no. Don't pray about that thing again. Because he won't answer. He won't answer. Why will he not answer? Because, always remember, it is God's prerogative. Is within his own, is his discretion. You can't untwist him. You can't. You can't. You can untwist him. He will do it if it's according to his will. So sometimes people, they say, they want to pray and fast. So they will do 30 days prayer, 40 days prayer. Look, if he's the one that will answer, and it's not according to his will, he will not. What he could have prevented in his power, he allowed in his wisdom. So you must know when to pray, when not to pray, when to stop praying. The children of Israel, they received miracle of manna throughout. They are going through the Red Sea, through the wilderness. Do you know, the day they step their feet on Canaan and ate the fruit, the manna ceased. No amount of prayer will bring the manna back again. You know why? It is now time not to pray for manna, but to get down and do the work. I think one of the challenges of our days is wisdom to know when to pray, when not to pray, and when to stop praying. There is a time to pray because you need to hear from him to know what he wants you to do in order to manifest his kingdom on earth. There is a time not to pray because you need to go and work in order to be able to provide your basic need and fulfill your purpose on the earth. There is a time to stop praying because having heard from him, it is now time to go and do what he said. It is now time to go and do what he told you to do in the place of prayer. It is time. It is time. Jesus had a secular job, was a carpenter. St. Paul had a secular job, was a tent maker. Because that is the place to go and manifest the kingdom. And you have to be there and interact with people to get the job done. Paul and Jesus were examples of those who know when to pray, when to stop praying, and when not to pray. Some Christians have come to a conclusion that if you want to be spiritual, then you must not do any secular job. Because they didn't even see their work as being spiritual. This is what is keeping believers to be in the lower class in society. Because we spend our time in church, in praying, And this is reducing our influence in society. Remember, you are in a material world. Your influence for Christ here on the earth depends largely on what you are able to do physically that people can see. That's what gives you respect. It is very common for Christians today to pray from morning till night, to do all-night prayer. They are even praying for the country, but the country is in shambles. They pray for the same thing week in, week out, week in, week out, week in, week out, and nothing is changing. What is so funny or interesting is that that's why some unbelievers feel there must be something wrong with Christians, because it's like nothing is happening and the person is not asking questions. What could be the problem? Could it be that I'm not supposed to be praying about this? And sometimes he has even answered. But because he already fixated his mind in the way he feels it must be answered, and when it should be answered. The Christians do not even know that going to fulfill your calling is as important outside the church, is as important as going for church program. Because if what you're doing, wherever you're doing it, is helping to increase righteousness, is helping to increase peace, is bringing joy and gladness to people, is making them to see your good work and glorify God, that is important, much more important than even going to a physical building. Many religious people in Africa today will prefer to spend the whole day or week in religious activity than going to work. Why? Because they don't understand that through your work, God can be glorified. He said, let your light so shine that man can see your good works and glorify your Father. So this religious activity has kept believer poor. Now they will begin to pray to meet their needs. They believe that God will give them a day of favor, which will supersede their days of labor. So some people will say 1 year, 1 day of favor is better than many years of labor. So they don't want to labor because they are looking for favor. Unfortunately for many, they don't know that the harder you work, the luckier you get. The more favored you are. People get so involved in different religious activities such that they don't have time to fulfill their calling. You know what Jesus said? He said, I must walk the work of him that sent me while it is day. It is interesting because he could have claimed 1 day of favor is better than many years of labor. But Jesus himself said, I must walk. 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 Paul said, I labor more abundantly than they all. No wonder Paul was the greatest of the apostles. He said the grace of God upon me was not in vain. Because, you know, some Christians, they have the grace of God upon their life, but there is something called frustrating the grace of God upon your life. Many believers have used their lazy and indolent attitude to frustrate the grace of God upon their life. Many believers have used their lazy and indolent attitude to frustrate the grace of God upon their life. But Paul said, I labored more abundantly than they all. What does that mean? Paul, who labored more abundantly, is the greatest of the apostles. The one that labored more became the greatest of the apostles. The one that labored more became the greatest of the apostles. The one that labored more became the greatest of the apostles. He labored more abundantly than they all. Paul did not say one day of favor is better than many years of labor, but rather he labored. He put his hand to work. He labored. He put his hand to work. That is important for every one of us. To work. To know when to pray and when to stop praying and go and do the work. Because one of the goals of prayer is to see what you need to do. To see what you need to do. You know what Jesus said? He said, he doesn't do anything on the earth, but he will only do what he sees the Father do. He doesn't do anything on the earth. He only do what he sees the Father do. He only do what he sees the Father do. Is that not interesting? He said, I came down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him that sent me. I came down from heaven, not to do my own will, but to do the will of him that sent me. Then he said in another place, he said, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he seeth the Father do. The Son can do nothing of himself, but what he seeth the Father do. So it's not even just laboring for fun. It's laboring based on what he is called to do, what he sees the Father do. For what things soever he doeth, this also doeth the Son likewise. This also doeth the Son likewise. This also doeth the Son likewise. What he seeth the Father do, that is what the Son do. What does that suggest to you? You can't come to the world and spend your time doing your own thing. No, you can't do your own thing because you didn't send yourself here. You can't do your own thing because you didn't send yourself here. You should do what he has called you to do. What has he called you to do? So that means your prayer should be to see what he wants you to do. So that means if I'm a student, if I'm praying regarding my project or exam, to what end? To be able to get a good grade and be able to create a platform to do what he has called me to do. I'm working. How does that job connect to what he has called me to do? My prayer is to be able to see what to do on that job that will give me what I need to do what he has called me to do. You know what? This kind of prayer that is easy to answer because it's according to his will. So if there's something you've been praying for long, please, sometimes some of us, we pray like God is wicked God. He wants you to suffer. He wants you to pray. You must pray and fast for many days for him to do what a father should have done for the son, and then you have to suffer to get it. It's a mindset. It's a mindset, but it's a very wrong mindset. Very wrong mindset. Very, very wrong mindset. If you have a relationship with him, all that you need to fulfill what he has called you to do, the rest assured it will come to you. But ensure that anything you do in your life is not just about you, it's about others. It's about fulfilling the kingdom. It's about manifesting the kingdom. It's about ensuring that mankind see your good works and glorify his name. It's about him, not about you. If that's your focus, getting an answer will be easier. Getting an answer will be easier. So you have a situation in which today people are full of religious activity without value in the world. Jesus said, I must walk the work of him that sent me. I must walk the work of him that sent me. Why this day? Because the night come when no man can walk. He also said, my Father walketh till now, and I also walk. Even God, in creating the world, spent 6 days straight. Jesus told us, my food is to do the will of him that sent me and to finish his work. He is not using miracle of favor to cover for work. He is not using miracle of favor to cover for work. He is not using miracle of favor to cover for work. Rather, he walked. He walked. He walked. My Father walketh hitherto, and I walk. He walked. And it's an example for us. It's an example for us. It's an example for us. A great example, I must say. Worthy of emulation. Worthy of emulation. Worthy of emulation. Paul said, I labor more abundantly than they all. No wonder I was the greatest apostle. Always remember, as believers, you need to know that there is a time to pray about an issue. There is a time not to pray, because what situation you are in can be fixed without necessarily praying about it. And there is a time to stop praying, because he will not answer that prayer, or he has told you what to do. It's time for you to get down and do the work. Whenever you are praying about something for long, an answer is not coming, remember, 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 remember. Most likely, maybe you are praying amiss, or he has answered, you are expecting that answer in another form. You know, some people erroneously, because of our root in the Old Testament, believe because Daniel was praying and there was a prince of Persia that hindered his prayer, and that maybe they need to continue praying. Maybe Daniel prayed for 21 days so that the prince of Persia can be let off. And you're in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, Christ was not living in them. The Holy Spirit was not living in them. Today, in the new era, dispensation of grace, Christ is living in you. So the answer is not coming from anywhere. Out of your belly will flow the river of living water. Out of your belly will flow the river of living water. Out of your belly. Out of your belly will flow the river of living water. This is very important. He that believeth on me, as the scripture has said, out of his belly shall flow the river of living water. Is Christ in you the hope of glory? You know what? There's no prince of Persia that can hinder your prayers. No prince of Persia. No prince of Persia, I tell you. Unless you don't believe in the New Testament. No prince of Persia. Because Christ is not living in you. The answer is not coming from somewhere. Out of your belly shall flow the river of living water. He said in the last day, that great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried, saying, if any man thirst, if any man thirst, if any man thirst, let him come and drink. Let him come and drink. If any man thirst, let him come and drink. Because if he believe in me, out of his belly shall flow river of living water. There is no prince of Persia anywhere that is going to hinder your prayer in the New Testament. Don't believe that rubbish. Don't believe that rubbish. Don't believe that rubbish. There's so many things we have come to believe. And you know, self-limiting belief. You just have an imaginary something hindering your prayer, whereas probably God has answered, or he's saying, I've answered, but you won't get it now. You are not mature for that thing you're asking for right now. It will destroy you. Hold on. It will come later. Continue working. Or this situation you are in right now is necessary for your next level and advancement. It's just like Joseph. Look at Joseph. Look at Joseph. Imagine Joseph praying for restoration back to his parents' house when he was in Potiphar's house. Imagine. Imagine him praying not to go to prison. Imagine him praying. What could have befallen of him? You think God will answer that prayer? Because that challenge he's going through is necessary for his next level of advancement. It's necessary. And God can see the end from the beginning. So he has to go through it. He has to go through it. He has to go through it. Because if he doesn't go through it, you know what? He will not be adequately prepared to do what he is called to do. He will not. So in order to be prepared adequately, you know what? He had to go from parents' house. He was thrown into the pit. From the pit, he found himself in Potiphar's house as a slave. From Potiphar's house, he was thrown into the prison, and from prison to palace. What a journey. 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 You need to know when to pray, when not to pray, and when to stop praying. Ask critical questions about the situation. Ask critical questions about the situation. So that you have it settled in your mind what you need to do about that situation. This is so important so that people don't get frustrated. In fact, some people are backsliding because they believe prayer is the master key, and the master key is not opening doors because they have a wrong understanding of what the tool of prayer is supposed to be used for. They have a wrong understanding of what the tool of prayer is supposed to be used for. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for being able to join tonight. Let me hear from you. What have you learned tonight? Kemi, good evening. Well done. Welcome, rather. Welcome back. Hello, Kemi, are you there? Your mic is not on. I don't know why. I don't know why your mic is not on. Kemi, are you there? Can you hear me? Hello, Kemi, can you hear me? Okay, I can't hear you. Your mic also is not active here. Okay, Favor, you're just coming in. We're rounding off. Adebayo Israel, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Favor. Long time. Yes, Adebayo Israel, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining. What have you learned tonight?
Okay, you're welcome, sir. I've learned that we are to seek more of personal relationship with God. And when the Bible said pray without ceasing, it's not talking about just this the stereotype prayer we do. It's talking about this constant touch with God.
Yeah.
That at every instant of our lives, that we are in this constant connection with God the Father.
Yeah.
And also I learned that we need to know when to pray, when to stop praying, that is, stop praying and do what God has told you to do, and when to not pray. And also, finally, I learned that we should not just be so much interested in being religious, going to church, pray every time, but we should also put our hands into working. Like Christ said, that he works just as the Father himself also works. So we too, we should try to seek relevance in this world we are, because this was the material world. So we should try to seek relevance, and also we should take our work as spiritual, that God can use our work even to glorify his name.
Yeah.
In our various circles. So thank you very much, sir, for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you. Hello, Nii. How are you? Good evening. Hello, Nii. Good evening. Are you there tonight? Okay, Nii is not here tonight. Okay, Nii, go ahead. Long time. How are you? You could not talk last week. Hello, your voice is low.
Yeah, last week I was having a.
You were having what? Hello?
Okay, last week I had a little bit of challenges with my network, so I could not really join.
Okay.
Yeah, tonight it's been wonderful. I think I was able to listen for
you joined early today.
few minutes because I still. So truthfully, at the point when you said when Joseph had his experiences.
Yeah.
I've never thought of the kind of prayer he would have been engaged in until now.
Okay.
Because humanly speaking, if I were in his position, maybe I'll be praying, God, take me home. I think I will still have to go back and really think more on what happened then, and then the kind of prayer he probably would have been praying. Because I've been listening to messages. No one has even mentioned the part of his prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no messages has even introduced us to what kind of prayer I would have been praying. But then, so tonight's session is just more like a reminder for me.
Yeah.
In the sense that when we pray, we should pray to get God's leading in the direction of fulfilling his will.
Yes.
And being able to communicate more with him in season out of season. So that understanding has given me perspective of when to pray and when not to pray, or what not to even pray about.
Yeah.
So in some cases, it's just kind of strange when, for some people, they see prayer as ritual.
Yes, that's actually, I think that's a big challenge for many Christians. Ritual. They must do it. If they don't do it, they don't feel right. So it's not about the fellowship or relationship, it's about the activity.
Yes. So doing it makes them feel like, okay,
they are more spiritual and more superior.
Yes, exactly. The more you can do it, the more they feel they are powerful.
Yeah.
Rather than seeking knowledge to also balance their area of request in prayer. So that is for me from tonight's session, and well, I still hope to be able to learn more in coming sessions in this aspect of prayer.
You have a long way to go.
It's fine.
A long way to go. Next week, we are going to be talking about the uselessness of prayer without work. the uselessness of prayer without words. That's what we'll be discussing next week. The
Okay.
uselessness of prayer without words.
So you were asking what happened to Kemi. I think Kemi did not complete our connection
Connection, but that
by
means
clicking on the dial.
that means she will not be hearing us now.
Yes, she probably will not be hearing what we are
She will not be
saying
hearing.
right now.
She will not be hearing.
Yes.
She will not be hearing. All right, Favor, let me hear from you. How are you?
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good
So
evening.
sorry.
Daughter.
It's fine, thank you.
All right. And I work.
Oh, that's good. Work is fine.
Good to hear from you again. I hope you'll be able to join early next week.
Yes, I would. Yes, I'd go straight. Next week I would. I just remembered. I don't even know. I've been busy with something.
Wow.
I just remembered. I was like, oh, I quickly checked to see if you were still online, and I just met that you're rounding off already.
All right. All right.
I don't think I'll come in early next week.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for being able to make it tonight. See you next week and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.